Alright guys, welcome. This is Shay Jose, and today I'll be bringing you a breakdown of my latest single, Andromeda, which is part of a 2-track EP, Andromeda and Prometheus, which was released on Miss Monique's record label, SIONA Records. If you don't know the track, this is a track that Miss Monique has actually been playing for the last couple of months on most of her sets around the world. So I'll give you a little bit of a listen to the track, and then we'll break down a few of the elements so you can get a feel for what the track or how the track was put together. So here it is. I won't play much more of that. I just want to give you a little bit of an insight onto how the track was put together. So let's get to it. I'll just break down a few of the main elements, and I might actually include one or two of the main lead synth patches for my patrons to download, possibly in the link below. So haven't decided that yet, so just check below, and yeah, it might be there. To start off with, look, I always spend a lot of time on the low end of any of the tracks that I work on. I just find that if you've got a really good bass for your low end, that the entire track just kind of glues together really nicely. So in this track, I've actually got two kicks, two layers, two different kicks, EQ'd slightly different, each one, as you can see there. One has a little bit more top end, the other one is a little bit more compressed. And what they're doing is basically I'm running all this to a bus, which is actually being EQ'd again, and actually taking some of the high end parts in here, because I just found it was clashing quite a bit with some of the higher frequency elements in the synthesizers and whatnot. As always, we put everything to mono to have that low end really tight, and you've probably seen this if you've been following me for a while. I tend to always kind of use Neutron 3 to basically then compress the kick. So I compress the initial attack and then the body of the kick a little bit differently, and then just add some transient designer in there. So you get a really kind of nice fat kick. Really punchy, it really cuts through the mix really nicely. And to also add some extra elements to that, I'm basically running this bus and running a little bit of decapitator through it, so a little bit of distortion, which is actually helping to fatten up that sound or that kick in the mix. I'm moving on. The sub, nothing too great on this. It's just I believe on this one I had a simple sine wave, a square wave in here. Setting it to mono, a little bit of saturation again, and just EQ to taste. And I'm running kickstart to actually get the sub out of the way of the kick as it comes through. So sitting quite nicely in there. The main bass, which is kind of sitting in the higher frequency, as you can see there, taking a lot of the low end, kind of around the 50 to 215. There's a bit of a slope down there. Because I found that it was clashing with the sub a little bit more, so both of them together are just kind of playing and really complemented each other. And with a kick, So in this bass layer, I've actually got a couple of layers in there. I've got like the main bass bus coming through, but I've also bussed a couple of these small acid licks that I call them in here, which is kind of like just a little I don't know, it's like some little ear candy that comes through. Really adds to the atmosphere of the track. Otherwise, it would kind of be pretty boring. One of the things that I guess keeps progressive house quite interesting is the progression. Making sure that some new elements are either brought in or brought out throughout the track in a tasteful way. You don't want to like really have too much emphasis on too many elements all at once. You really want to have one or two elements that kind of pop out certain parts within your track that your listener can actually focus on. So because we are actually doing the drop in this section here, and if we just play kind of like the bass, the sub, and the kick, you will see that this kind of really adds like a nice little atmosphere with that small lick, as I call it, acid lick, as I've called it there, as part of the kind of low end, but adding kind of that sprinkle of melodic sound to the top end. So I'll hit all those three elements together sound like this. As you can hear there, it just keeps on building and building and building, and throughout the whole track you find, as you can see here just from the arrangement, it's kind of empty in these first kind of 4 bars, and then we start getting more and more elements building up until we actually kind of get to I guess, you know, the climax of the song, which is really having all these elements come in here. The drums, I've covered this before. Basically, this is just a breakdown of pretty much my hi-hats, some rides, some close hats. And I'm adding a little bit of vocoder in there, which adds a little bit of white noise in certain places, as you can see here. So I'm kind of automating that white noise in certain parts of the track, usually towards the end of a 4 or 8 bar. As you can see here, it builds. And then it comes down again, and it kind of helps build that progression again as you go through the track. The other main component in this is probably this lead, which is just a very, very simple trancey lead. There's not a hell of a lot to it, actually, from memory. It's just a basic CJ wave with some filtering and just amended the attack a little bit. And really what we're doing is just changing the rate of the arpeggiator in here and the gate, which actually gives this lead a little bit more body in certain parts. So if we turn this off, you'll see what I mean. But when we turn the arpeggiator on, basically we're just changing the rate slightly, which actually gives that little flutter effect in the lead a little bit more. We're just EQing the lead with a little bit of reverb and a little bit of compression. So it's really not that much in that particular lead, but really drives the track. I think what makes this song special in my mind anyways is the melody. The way the melody kind of breaks down and goes into that really kind of trancey atmospheric sort of vibe in the breakdown is because of this lead. As you can hear in this part. And all we're doing is we're basically just using this macro. If I was to open Serum again, to automate, I believe it's automating the cutoff in here. So, there we go. So we're really just automating the cutoff to kind of give it that accentuation on the notes as it comes in. And what I've done as part of the lead, I'm actually teasing the lead right before the breakdown. And then we go into a nice, really melodic breakdown, and then we tease the lead back in and we have the second drop. So I'll let you hear how that kind of sounds. So we have this really nice breakdown where there's just a lot of atmosphere, a lot of pads, a little bit of a riser. You can hear some sprinkles of some other synthesizers in there, some crystallized effects. So really there's just a lot of risers and atmospheres to give this part a lot of vibe. A really nice trancey pad. And now the lead will come back in this part here. So what I'm doing is I'm actually teasing the lead throughout that whole build-up, and you know, adding some vocals in there, which is essentially just, I think, some I can't remember where I got these vocals from, for a sample pack, or I got them from Output, I think. I honestly cannot remember, but it basically builds the atmosphere in that whole breakdown. Some other memorable mentions as well. What did I have in this layer? Okay, so this is kind of like the atmosphere layer in the background, which is actually adding some E-candy. It's really tucked in really far down into the mix, but it actually adds a little bit of extra spice. And one of the things, if you guys actually want me to go down through the actual arrangement of Progressive House, I'll delve a little bit more into actually how to add E-candy to your productions. I've done it in other videos, but for this particular one, essentially what I'm trying to do is actually, or the way I approach my tracks is, I will write the track as it is, and then I will actually go and find elements to actually fill in the gaps where I feel it actually needs a little bit more emphasis, or basically a change up every, you know, 4 to 8 bars, because essentially every 4 to 8 bars you should be trying to introduce some new type of element to keep your listener engaged. Now, that doesn't mean you go over the top, because people can only really concentrate on 1 or 2 items at a time. So you really need to pick the element that you want to concentrate on at the start of your bar, and then you can swap elements in and out. So as you can see here, I've got these bass hits that are coming in here, and then I've got some plucks that are coming in here. So basically from the, I guess, the intro to the pre-chorus before the drop, you'll see how the elements are actually brought in certain sections and then removed. So I'll just maybe let you hear, but kind of to about here, and basically see how actually everything is actually brought in and kind of removed, you know, to add and emphasize different parts of the track as it's building through. So that's that bass hit there. There is we've got this kind of constant Andromeda style lead, which is kind of just this. And there's heaps of tutorials that actually show you how to actually make a sound like that. I won't go into how to actually put that together, but then we've got this nice little pluck that kind of follows behind it, and together they kind of really complement each other. Throughout the entire song, the basic 3 main elements of this track are those sounds and the lead. Really, this really is the entire track. So these 3 elements, I'll play them all together. Everything else around it is really just there to support this main melody. The entire track is kind of built around those 3 melodies, and everything else is just there to kind of support it. So really got to think hard about what parts of your song you want to concentrate on. What are going to be the key elements that are going to actually be popping and driving the melody, the groove of your track, whether that's, you know, a groove like a drum loop or something, or it's going to be a melody from a synthesizer or a bass line or whatever it might be. But you really need to kind of decide that in the start and kind of build your track around that. That's at least how I do it. Now, that doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes it'll happen that I'll have a bass line, then I'll build a groove, and then I start building parts on top of that, and then I change elements around and make some elements kind of be the star of the show and others kind of fall backwards further into the mix. In regards to this, I actually came up with a melody first for that kind of trancey synthesizer and kind of built everything around it. Other memorable mentions in here, like I said, the pad, nothing too great on this. It's literally just a very simple pad. Just done in Serum. These are bound to divide. I think patch, which is really nice. Actually, it's a really nice trancey pad. And then when you play the entire bus together with another layer that I've got here, really what I've done there is just be kind of selective about the sounds that you use. In this example, not only have I picked out particular chords lowering the octave, but also picked up sounds which are actually in opposite sides of the frequency range, which actually complement each other really nicely. So you don't hear a lot of muddiness in these, like in this pad, which you sometimes tend to do when you're kind of stacking pad sounds. When you put them all together and EQ them slightly different, they actually sound really nice together and really complement each other. So that's another really quick way to actually look at breaking down your instruments. Kind of really start to think about placing your instruments in different parts of the frequency range. Don't have everything kind of like on the mid to low mids. See how you can spread things out into stereo. Some things spread out to the higher frequency ranges to kind of really give your track a little bit more depth in the way it sounds. That's really it. Really, it's actually a very, very simple track. But like I said, what really drives this track is that little ARP sort of melody that I've got here. It's kind of like the star of the show, really, and everything's kind of built around it. So, look, I hope you enjoy this little breakdown. Like I said, the track is out today from Miss Monique's label, SIONA. Also, make sure you check out the other track on the EP, which is called Prometheus. And I'll probably do a breakdown of that in the next couple of weeks as well. If you want me to dive into any of the parts of this track a little bit deeper, just comment below. I'm happy to do a further breakdown on this. But yeah, look, if you like the track, please support it on Beatport and stream it on Spotify. And don't forget to follow below. There's links to my Discord and subscribe to this channel. If you join the Discord, there's a lot of... I'm trying to build a community there where we can actually talk about music, swap ideas, have other people present their work, and really be able to talk to you guys a little bit more on a one-to-one basis. So, yeah, look, hope you enjoy this. And hopefully I'll upload another video probably in the next week or two where I'll break down my other track, Prometheus. So until then, thanks, guys, and take care.